They called him a monster. People crossed the street when they saw him. Kids were told to stay indoors. Some even threw rocks when he limped by. He had no collar, no name, just scars, a broken leg that never healed right, and eyes that had seen too much. But every day, just before sunset, he returned to the same crumbling house at the end of Willow Street. And every day, someone left a small piece of bread by the fence. No one knew who. No one dared ask. But one girl, she never stopped watching. The house had been empty for years. Roof half collapsed, weeds curling through the windows, and a gate that screeched when the wind moved it. Nobody went near it. The neighbors whispered stories about the last family who lived there, about screaming at night and police cars that never returned. And then one day, he showed up, gray, wide-chested, ribs visible, a pit bull with ears torn at the tips and a limp that made every step look painful. At first, they thought he was just passing through. He wasn't. By the third day, he'd made the porch his territory. He didn't bark, didn't growl, just watched. Eyes like two wells, deep and still. The whispers began. "It's dangerous. It's one of those fighting dogs. What if it bites someone's kid?" Mrs. Hargrove from number 17 called animal control. They never came. On the 5th day, someone tossed a brick at him. It hit his shoulder. He didn't run. He didn't fight back. He just walked inside. That night, it rained harder than it had in weeks. And from her bedroom window, 10-year-old Leah saw him, curled under a broken beam, soaked and trembling. She couldn't sleep. In the morning, before anyone woke, she crept out with a piece of toast, left it near the fence, watched from behind the tree as he sniffed it, then gently took it and vanished into the house again. The next day, she did the same. The dog didn't move, just looked at her, not with fear, not with anger, but with a question. And that look stayed with her the rest of the day, like something inside him was trying to remember how to trust. Leah had always been quiet. She wasn't like the other kids on Willow Street who played soccer in the evenings or screamed for ice cream trucks in the summer. She was the girl with the oversized hoodie, sketchbook always in hand, hair half tangled from sleeping too little and thinking too much. And maybe that's why she saw him differently. She didn't see a monster. She saw loneliness, pain, the kind that sits inside your chest and makes everything too quiet. She started leaving food every day, toast, slices of apple, once even her leftover chicken. Sometimes he ate it right away. Sometimes not until she was gone. Weeks passed like this. A silent ritual. And then, one afternoon, she stayed. She sat across the street on the curb. Not too close, just enough so he'd see she wasn't hiding. He didn't move. He just stared from the shadows of the porch. But the next day when she sat again, he took one step forward. His body was still tense, cautious, scarred. But his ears twitched. His tail gave the faintest flick. She whispered, "Hey boy, I'm not here to hurt you." No reaction. But the day after that, he walked all the way to the fence and just stood there. She could hear his breathing, rough and uneven, could see the old wound on his leg, pink and raw. Her hands trembled as she reached into her pocket for a piece of bread. She held it out, her palm open. For a long moment, he didn't move, just looked into her eyes. And then, slowly, gently, he stepped forward, took the bread, and brushed her fingers with his nose. She didn't flinch. She smiled. That moment lasted only seconds. But something broke open in both of them. From that day on, he began waiting for her. Same time, same spot. And every time their eyes met, the street around them seemed to vanish. Two souls, one bond, unspoken, unbreakable. It started with the shouting. Mr. Alvarez, the loud man from the corner house, had seen Leah petting the dog through the fence. He stormed down the street, furious, yelling about danger, about rabies, about that beast. He'll tear her face off. You think this is a game? That's not a pet. That's a killer. Leah's mother pulled her inside, grounded her for a week, took away her sketchbook. But the next morning, the bread was back at the fence, and the dog, now called Shadow in Leah's mind, was waiting. She waved through the window. He didn't move, just stood there, loyal, still. But the neighborhood had had enough. 2 nights later, just past midnight, something cracked in the darkness. A rock shattered the porch railing. Shadow barked, loud and deep. For the first time, a warning. Leah sat up in bed, heart pounding. She heard running, tires screeching, then silence. She grabbed her flashlight, crept out the back door barefoot, and ran. The house was empty. No dog, no sound, just broken glass and a smear of blood on the steps. She called for him, whispered his name like a prayer. Shadow. Please. But there was nothing. He was gone. The next morning, a city truck was seen near the edge of town. Rumors spread that he'd been caught, taken away, put down. Leah refused to believe it. She searched every alley, every shelter, drew flyers, but no one cared. The world moved on, but she didn't. For weeks, she left food by the fence, untouched. Rain turned it to pulp. Ants came, birds pecked at it, but she kept coming. And every night, before bed, she'd look out the window, just in case. Shadow never came back. Not that year, not the next, not for 6 years. The fire started in the hills. It hadn't rained in weeks, and the wind that day blew hot and dry. By late afternoon, smoke rolled in over the rooftops, thick and gray, turning the sky a sick shade of orange. Leah, now 16, was alone at home, sketching by her window, headphones on, world off, when the power cut out. Then the sirens began. Flashing lights, screaming neighbors, someone pounding on the door. "The fire's coming fast! Get out now!" She grabbed her backpack, shoved in her sketchbook, and ran for the stairs. But the smoke was already there. It filled the hallway like fog, choking, blinding. Her chest seized, her vision blurred. She coughed once, twice, then her knees buckled. And everything went black. When she opened her eyes, it wasn't to fire, but to warmth. Something rough was dragging her. Across the floor, out the back door, she saw teeth, not biting, but gripping the strap of her backpack. And then, eyes. His eyes. Gray, older, weathered, but still, him, Shadow. He'd come through the flames. He was limping worse now, coat singed, ears burned at the edges. But he didn't stop. He pulled her clear of the smoke, past the fence, all the way to the curb where neighbors were gathering. Then, without a sound, he collapsed beside her. When the paramedics came, they carried her first. Then him. No one said a word. Even Mr. Alvarez just stood there, mouth open, eyes wide, watching the monster breathe smoke for the girl he once tried to keep away. At the hospital, she woke to a tube in her arm, and a familiar shape curled at her feet. They hadn't let him in, but he'd gotten in anyway. Just like he'd always done, Shadow stayed by her side for 3 days. The nurses tried to move him. He wouldn't go. One even brought him water and a slice of turkey from her own lunch. He licked her hand once. That was enough. Leah's mother cried when she saw him, not out of fear, but because she finally understood. This dog had never been the danger. He was the guardian. When Leah was discharged, she walked out of the hospital with her hand resting gently on his head. Cameras were there. A firefighter had filmed part of the rescue. It went viral. Hero dog saves teen in house fire. Once hated pit bull returns after 6 years to save girl. From monster to miracle. The headlines couldn't capture it. Not really. What mattered was this. Shadow came home with her. He had arthritis now, slept a lot, ate slow. But he was home, and the neighbors? They couldn't meet her eyes anymore, not even Mr. Alvarez. When he passed her on the sidewalk weeks later, he paused, looked at Shadow, then said softly, "He's a good dog." Leah just nodded. No need to say more. Years passed. Shadow grew slower, softer, but he stayed by her feet while she drew, followed her to college, slept at the foot of her bed. The day he left, it was quiet. No pain, no fear, just a final breath and a warm evening sun through the window. Leah didn't cry. She just smiled and whispered, "Thank you." They'd called him a monster. But monsters don't come back for you through fire and smoke. Monsters don't remember your scent after 6 long years. Monsters don't wait every day for the only person who ever saw their soul. No, Shadow wasn't a monster. He was proof. that sometimes love doesn't bark, it waits.